So, what do you play on a minor 7 flat 5 chord? Minor 7 flat 5 chords are really not a big deal to play over, but when you first see a chord like that, you might think it is, but there's a way to break it down. So let's do we're going to do a minor 2-5, minor 7 flat 5 to an altered dominant to a minor chord. So it's going to be E minor 7 flat 5, the first chord, A7 flat 13, D minor 7, could also be this D minor 7. So this first chord is E minor 7 flat 5. If you took an E minor 7 that you might normally know, the bar chord, you just lower the fifth down a half step. So it's E, B flat, D, and G. And on your A7 chord, you're going to flat the 13, so there's an F right here. The reason why that chord's going to work is because your next chord's going to be a D minor 7, and F is in D minor 7. Fits a 2-5 and a D minor and a minor key. So then, so you got and this is D, F, C, E. It's a D minor 7/9 chord right here. So if you wanted to do this kind of feel, now that's more of a different feel than going so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, and do 2 bars of the D minor 7 at the end. Go really slow when you're practicing this stuff. So my point that I was going to show you in this is, here's E minor 7 flat 5. If you look at the notes, E, B flat, D, and G, get rid of the E for a minute and look at the top of this. It's B flat, D, and G. Look at it from a different way. Here's G, here's B flat, here's D. G, B flat, D, what's that spell? G minor triad. So if you can think up a minor third from E minor 7 flat 5, up a minor third, here's your G. Your next chord. All I gotta do is shift one note down to a C sharp. Into your D minor. So that's why when people play this lick, you hear E minor 7 flat 5, and then you hear Grant Green, for example. I mean, plenty of other jazz guys do it, but it's the first few notes of a G minor. Now we're playing it over E minor 7 flat 5 because it's part of it, it's in there. So you're thinking like this. Here's your chord here, right? As soon as I do that, that right there to the ear, you know I'm going to the next chord, which is this C sharp to A. It's just the third of the dominant 7th chord to the 1 of the dominant 7th chord right here. So super simple line to hear is going like a tone. So you got G, B flat, D. Here's just C sharp, which is the third right off your altered. You're just playing right off, almost like a triad. You could also do that, but on the 5 chord. So here's your B flat to your root to your flat 13 to your third. Might go to the 9 on this to the root. So there's another one. You're pivoting. So here's your E minor 7 flat 5. We're just playing a G minor. Triad off that, and then there's your third. Try to play some of these real simple lines. I'll try to repeat them a little bit so you can hear them. Get this chord progression recorded. So that's going a little back up. So this is playing right up off, outlining the chord from the root into the 5 chord. Just all variations. So G minor from here, so here's your E minor 7 flat 5, almost like a blues you can do too. So on your altered 5 here, there's your root, your flat 9, your flat 3rd, and then your major 3rd on your altered chord here. So here's your minor 7 flat 5. We're talking about G minor stuff. You could do an arpeggio like this, right on top of that. chord, there's your root, there's your flat 13, there's the third, and then we're going right into the root of the next chord if we want on the D minor 7. There's a million lines like this. We're only in one position with it. So G minor 7. It's almost like playing think about it can be a little complicated to think about it. It depends on what your process is or how you look at it, but if you look at, here's your A dominant altered, look at the notes. You got an F, a C sharp, an A, and it starts to sound like a almost like a D harmonic. Top of this, because really you're targeting down to a D minor anyway. So if you've got, we're talking about first few notes of G minor on top of your E minor 7 flat 5. That sound like? That sounds like a C sharp diminished on top of an A dominant 7. So G minor on top of E minor 7 flat 5, G minor triad for now. Then we said what? C sharp diminished on top of A7. So it's tet talk, but you can just hear the sound of it, because here's the third of A, here's the fifth of A, here's the flat 7 of A, here's flat 9, here's the third. See, the problem or the challenge in trying to hear jazz lines is a lot of the times they're playing at incredibly fast up tempo, and you're trying to hear all these lines. It's helpful if you hear them slower. You can always speed them up later, but I'm a big believer in playing these lines slower and hearing them. So a lot of options. So G minor triad. I'm talking about flat 13. E minor 7 flat 5, A7 flat 13, D minor 7. What's technically happening on this sound in this case is that this one chord, D minor 7, you're not going to play Dorian on this one. It's going to be more like, which means B flat. So D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C, D. Now technically you can play D Aeolian all over this 2/5 and it's going to work, but that's not outlining or getting specific with certain things you can say, but you can do it, and there's a time and place to do that to break up the sound. So if this is E minor 7 flat 5, here's your A7 altered, here's your D minor. progression. You're not just going, you're not just running a scale. You can get into that kind of playing, but you want to hint at that you know where you are on these chords on some level. So that's why this G minor little triad thing automatically is going to sound good. On this one, on this altered dominant, all you got to do is think of your A7 and flat the 13 and the flat 9. I could play altered dominant stuff till the friggin' cows come home. I've been exploring altered dominants for, I don't know, man, 30 years. I don't know, like altered dominants are so never ending. There's so many different things you can play on them. They're interesting. One way to get used to hearing this is take your regular stock A dominant 7 natural 13, play a line that you would play on that. I'll flat the 13. So on, instead of it's darker sounding, moodier sounding, however you want to look at it. And we were talking about C sharp diminished on top of A7. So if you got E minor 7 flat 5 like this on your A7, you could also play E minor 7 flat 5. I mean E minor 7 flat 5 to E diminished for your A chord. Because all you're doing is look at E minor 7 flat 5 here, and then this D is going down the C sharp. So E diminished, C sharp diminished. It all goes in minor thirds. So, not to get too technical all at once here, but if your A7 is altered, you can have these chords going like so. So E minor 7 flat 5. Here's your substitution with your diminished on the 5 chord. I'll play it. So here's your E minor 7 flat 5. A big Kenny Burrell kind of voicing to my ear, but obviously Joe Pass and Wes and all these guys did it too. But here's E minor 7 flat 5 down here. Just move it up to here, and you're literally playing like a G minor 7 flat 5 shape on top of A. You're just getting rid of the root. That's a cool thing to notice. We can get into that stuff later on. But here's E minor 7 flat 5 here. Here's your, you can leave your A ringing on that, or you could play just the top chord, and then play F major 7, and that's just getting rid of the root of D here for your D minor. So it sounds like. Here's E minor 7 9 minus the root, top 4 strings. typical scale for E minor 7 flat 5 is, if you look at this from just the root, let's just write up the scale, E minor 7 flat 5 scale. Which is technically all the same notes of F major 7, F major scale from E. What's kind of cool is here's your A7 altered. Super easy voice leading thing. E minor 7 flat 5, first two notes, E to G, root flat third, next chord is the 5 chord, there's your A, there's your C sharp, root third, next chord is D, D minor, D to F. You gotta hear that sound, so it's too. You can also play D minor pentatonic blues. So what I'm doing to try to show you is playing similar kinds of lines with little variations. E minor 7 flat 5, just think a G minor triad. Here's another thing you can think of on E minor 7 flat 5, is G Dorian. Wish I knew that many years ago, because I didn't read for many years until later. I always played by ear, you know, and then I saw these chords flying by and I had to try to just hear it because I couldn't read music for a long time, and that forced me to play a certain amount of things. And then after a certain point in time, there's faster ways of reading chord progressions and knowing what's going to sound good over a chord progression quickly, instead of trying to, because if you try to run whole scales through changes anyway, a lot of the time it's just not going to sound melodic. You're not going to make scale connecting through the chord. You don't want to play the whole scale anyway most of the time. Once in a great while there's different places you might. So anyway, the shortcut is G Dorian on E minor 7 flat 5. Which I got from Pat Martino thinking. So G Dorian on top of E minor 7 flat 5, it completely makes sense, because if this is E minor 7 flat 5 down here, and I put a root on the G, I am playing a G minor 7 6 chord right here. If you look at it like this, this is a great chord. Got to change one note to your C sharp on your altered chord. And on your D, you can play D Aeolian stuff. 7 altered. So E minor 7 flat 5. Right into my D minor. So E minor 7 flat 5, we're talking about G Dorian. There's your altered. Anyway, those are really pretty sounding things to me, and those are shortcuts. I'll show you a whole bunch of other things, but that's it for now. I'm trying to break these lessons down. Thanks for watching.